Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to Detroit. And how are you today?
Not great. No, I'm fine. I'm having a lovely time here. Lovely people, and I'm not just saying that. Believe me, it's been just a lovely experience. Yeah.
Is this your first time you've been to Motor City before, correct?
No, I've never been to Detroit in my life. No.
Wow.
So I'm fascinated. I only got in yesterday afternoon after a flight from London via Reykjavik in Iceland. So it's quite a trek. So I'm still a little, behind everything, or in front. I don't know. You see. But anyway, here I am. Delighted to be here.
I won't complain that I just drove 3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. That's tough. So we'll take questions, but and I'm sure there's going to be some questions about this. What was that one movie you were in?
What is that thing I was in? I was Lord Kitchener's Valley.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll take some questions, but
Yes.
I have some things that I'd like to talk to you about first.
Yes. But our personal life, I think, should stay with us.
Yeah.
No, I go.
This is your big moment, Dennis.
I'll give you a big
Okay.
moment, Dennis. Okay. Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Okay, right.
So when you were 4 or 5, you were fascinated with vaudeville, and that's
Yes.
kind of what prompted you to be an actor. But
Yes.
you followed on that.
Yes.
You were in a play, Rumpelstiltskin, and
You know this stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't quite realise it at the time, but when I was a child, in a small town in Scotland called Crieff, a population of about 6,000, there were 2 cinemas, 2 movie houses. And so every Saturday afternoon, you went to the movies, that's what you did. And I wanted to be Danny Kaye, Jerry Lewis, Donald O'Connor, those kinds of performers. It also came out of my family background, particularly my mother. My mother, for instance, had dance classes all through her childhood and eventually got a job in a chorus line in Scotland. They were in Glasgow at this time. But due to circumstances of the Second World War and all the rest of it, she wasn't allowed to follow her chosen path. But everyone in the family danced and sang well, and at family parties, a very Scottish thing, you'd get up and you'd do your party piece. And nobody had to hold me back, I was right. But everybody in the family sang well. Even my father too had a lovely voice. And so it was a very natural thing. And as you say, I was 5 years old and I did my first school play called Rumpelstiltskin and had the starring role, of course, Rumpelstiltskin. And there was a point at which, in the story, he gets so angry, he stamps his foot and falls through the floor. Now, of course, we couldn't do that in the school gymnasium. So I stamped my foot and then walked off the stage as quickly as I could, and I got a huge laugh. And I went, oh, I think I might be funny. That kind of really planted a seed as well, and it never went away. And it wasn't until I was about 14 years old, okay? And I had a friend at school, I'll never forget him, Terry Rollo was his name. And he mentioned this thing to me one day. He said the words drama school. And I said, what's that? Never heard of it. That's how cut off I was. And he said, well, you go and you study acting. And I went, oh, that's what I'll do. Yeah, great, that's what I'll do. With the simplicity of youth. There was no question of, oh, I wish I, no, that's what I'll do, great. So that's how I, but let me actually, shall I just go on? Because there's a very interesting little link for us all here today. So when I was 17 years old, I was trying to get into this drama school thing, and I had no advice, I had no one to give me any advice. And I had a friend who was starting off in journalism, my lifelong friend, Ron, in a city called Dundee in Scotland. And I went through to see him, and by some chance, I found a little amateur dramatic company who had a beautiful little Victorian theatre, stunning. And I joined this amateur dramatic company. I got a job selling carpets during the day, or not selling carpets actually, just standing around trying to look interesting. But anyway, so the leading actor of that amateur dramatic company was a guy called Ian McDermott. Oh. Precisely. So I spent about 8 months there, and then Ian and I auditioned for Glasgow Drama School on the same day, at the same time. And we came out of the drama school onto the main street in the centre of Glasgow, had a chat, and then I watched him walk away up the street, and I thought, boy, I'll never see that guy again. And we both got in. We trained together, we shared flats together, and then we were in this weird movie together sometime later. So I've known him since I was 17 years old, the Emperor of the Universe. How about that? Yeah. And he is, by the way, an extraordinary stage actor. He's so powerful, he's amazing, yeah.
So then your big first role, besides in theater,
yes.
A lot in theater.
I've done a lot of theater.
Lots of theater. And he writes, he directs, he dances,
yes.
he sings.
I sing in that. I've done a lot of musicals in my career. Yeah.
Won awards for musicals.
I have. That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But you were in The Man in the Iron Mask.
The Man in the Iron Mask, that's right.
With Patrick McGowan.
Yeah.
Who's one of my favorites.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Mad as a
I'm
snake.
so jealous.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you're in that other movie too.
Yeah.
Patrick McGowan. So you did that. You did The Merchant of Venice.
Yes, that's right.
With Laurence
Lawrence
Olivier. Somebody.
Oh my God. Yeah.
He won an award for Best Actor in a Musical named after him. So the Laurence Olivier.
Yeah, that's right. I got the Laurence Olivier Award for my performance in a musical. In a performance in a musical, 1930s musical, British Music Hall, partly written by some guys who wrote for the Marx Brothers. So again, that whole American vaudeville British Music Hall thing gave me my biggest success on the stage in the UK. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then in 1983, you were in a movie called Local Hero.
That's true.
Anybody seen this movie?
Yeah.
If you haven't, that is your homework tonight, is to watch it, because not only does it star him, it stars Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
Shoot. It also, if I'm not mistaken, was Peter Capaldi's first role in
Peter Capaldi's first role as an actor ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, which also is, I don't know why you've never been a Doctor Who, also.
Well, it's an outrage. Excuse me, for our children. Yeah, that's right.
But that movie, Bill Forsyth was an amazing director.
It was a very, very special experience, that one, and not just for me. I mean, I had a wonderful role, but everyone involved in that particular shoot, it was Bill Forsyth is a Scottish writer, director, absolutely brilliant, very funny, very quirky, off the wall. Everyone had a wonderful time on it. It was a very special shoot. We shot on the west coast of Scotland, which is, you've got to go there, it's incredible. The light's amazing. There are miles and miles of white beaches with no one on them. And then we shot up in the northeast. There's a quirky story about that, but I'll come to that. And it's a real, I would say, as an experience, I don't know what it's like in the States, but in the UK, you're trained for the stage. But actually, most young actors, because of the way the profession is now, will leave a drama school and walk in front of a camera. They won't walk onto a stage. And I'll tell you this, that whole thing came out from my fantastic nephew, Ewan McGregor. And he trained at one of the best drama schools, Guildhall in London, a great drama school. And he left early to do a big television series, Lipstick on Your Collar. And he had a wonderful role, and he came to the house in London and said, listen, I'm doing this, going to do this thing, but you know, what happens? So he had no idea what happened when you walked onto a film set, what the structure was, how you worked, how you approached the camera. So I gave him some tips and talked about not projecting very much, because you imagine you're on the stage and there are 800 people or 1,000 people. You have to get your voice to the back of the hall, somehow, without them realizing that's what you're doing. So you've got to breathe in the right way. With a camera, no. You can talk this quietly. You can talk that quietly. That's how quietly you can talk. You know? So I talked to him about that, and then I'll never forget, I got him to give me a couple of lines of dialogue. And I put a sock on the floor, okay? Because when you're working on camera, you have to be able to hit a mark so that the shot works. So your feet have to be just behind the mark. So you have to be able to do the dialogue and hit the mark without looking, and then the shot works. So he tried it. I said, no, you can't look at the sock. You've got to pace it out. So I just taught him that basic kind of, and then he said to me, we don't know any of this stuff. Will you come and talk to my year about this? I said, okay. And he went back to his drama school, and the principal said, no, we don't need that here. And the students, bless their cotton socks, got up and said, we want this. So they allowed me in for half a day. And that's how it actually progressed. And, you know, so it came from there. It came from my nephew. Yeah.
Speaking of your nephew,
yeah.
he's done a few things.
He's done
So he told a story about this whole thing on a train. He got punched in the nose, and he told you about it.
That's
and
right.
You were helping him with the speech.
The speech, that's right. And that's right. This was when he was auditioning, about to audition for his first drama school, his first training. And so I went up to our hometown, to Crieff, and I happened to be there. And so he was doing this particular speech. And I remember it was from a play called Road. It doesn't mean that to you, don't worry. But anyway, he did the speech, and I knew about this story where he nearly got thumped by, well, he did get thumped by a guy, actually. And so he did the speech and said, okay, hang on, wait a minute. Right, look, imagine that guy who hit you is in the room now. And I want you to know, I can't say this, I'm sorry, there are children present, because it's very strong. I gave him a very, let's put it this way, I gave him a very strong phrase to say. And I said, I want you to imagine this, I want you to get really angry, and then say to the guy, right? So he did it, and he got furious and said, right, do the speech now do it. And it just went like that. And it was very nice. He cites it as a moment where he realized you could use your own emotional life in your performances. And I'm glad to say, of course, he got in. Off he went. Yeah.
And you've directed him, and
I directed him
a few times.
Yes, and he again. In fact, he came to me and said, "Dan, I want you to direct me in a play." And so that was the first time that I directed a full play, down to him. And so I found this play called Little Malcolm and His Struggle Against the Eunuchs. It's a rather extraordinary play set in the north of England. A very long play which I cut. It was a decent running time, and it was a wonderful central role. There are about 5-6 characters, and I made sure I cast people who Ewan knew around him. So it was very, very successful, and we transferred it from the smaller theatre into the West End theatre in the West End of London, so it went very well. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I guess we should get to Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah, Star Wars.
People out here, they're like, okay, you've had your time, like. All right, I have more that we could talk about.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm good. So, you were in Star Wars.
Oh yes.
So, and okay, so the first movie, I'm old, so it's Star Wars. It's not Episode 4, it's not A New Hope, it's Star Wars to me, so just go with it. Okay?
Just go with it.
Just go with it. Some of us here are old. So, you first didn't get the job.
No. I was, we're going back to 1976. A very, very hot summer in the UK. There was a drought. England was brown, not green, literally. Anyway, you mentioned the Man in the Iron Mask, and I went to meet this guy, George, whatever his name was. He was seeing dozens of young actors for this movie he was going to do. And I met him at a chat in Soho in London, and that was that. I didn't hear anything. But actually, that year was very interesting indeed. I did 2 movies in France, A Man in the Iron Mask, and another movie called, oh my God, Jean-Luc Godard. No, it's gone. Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, I worked with some amazing actors on that movie, Dirk Bogarde, John Gielgud, Ellen Burstyn, and some extraordinary people. And then I came back to the UK and suddenly got a call to do this other thing. And, well, yeah, okay, all right. So off I went to Elstree, and that other thing was this Star Wars thing, which were, yeah.
So you never dreamed at the time that so many years later you'd be still talking about.
Well, it's insane. I mean, we didn't know what we were in. You know, I mean, I knew a lot of the other guys who were all young actors based in London, so I knew quite a lot of the guys in the movie anyway. And we would all sit around outside the soundstage in Elstree in North London. And then we'd be called in one by one, and we'd climb a ladder and onto a platform and sit in half a cockpit, and in front of us was a camera, and George was by the camera. And that's what we did. And George, who as far as I'm concerned is some kind of genius, let's face it, but there was like maybe, let's say it was a 20-page sequence, a battle sequence, right? And George thought in his naivety that as an actor you could just take your lines over 20 pages and just say them one after the other. I said, George, no, that doesn't, you couldn't work. I said, tell you what to do, George. Say my line to me and I'll say it back to you. So he did. And then he would say, okay, say it faster. Okay, now look up there and say, look at the size of that thing. Look down there and say it. So that's how we did it, you know. And then, oh, by the way, and then at each corner of this platform, there was a couple of guys wobbling it around. So, and you'd no sense of what was behind you or in front of you. Nobody mentioned even green screen at that time, and so that's what we did, you know. And it wasn't months and months later, felt like a year later, we sat down in a cinema, one of the big movie houses in the Leicester Square in London, and watched the cast and crew screening of Star Wars. And it was absolutely mind-blowing, as you can imagine, because we didn't know what we were in, and it was just extraordinary what they'd done with the material. You couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe it.
Now, you didn't have the whole script?
Oh God, no, we didn't have the whole script, no. So we didn't know what we were in that sense. We just did our stuff. Say it faster, look up there, say it, that's it. Yeah.
So well, just talk a little bit more about that experience, because
Yeah.
I know as a kid watching that at the theater for the first time,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I
Yeah.
went home and tried to explain it to my mom
Yeah.
and dad, and they were like,
Sure.
what?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you don't understand Han Solo. You know, they're like, what? And I'm like, it's great, and then the droids, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So what was that like to experience that?
I think it was, if anything, more extreme because, as I said, we had no sense of what we were in. And suddenly we looked at this thing and, my God, it made sense. And it broke ground and it was technically extraordinary. But not just that. I always think that one of the great things about that movie was the narrative drive through those first 3 films of the father-son scenario. It's almost like a Greek tragedy, a Greek drama. You know, this boy discovering who his father was ultimately, that kind of thing. And the narrative drive through the movies is so strong, so strong. And on top of that, the revolutionary technicalities of them was quite extraordinary, quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and it had newcomers, it had like, you know, Harrison Ford. And
That's
he's
right.
been in some movies before, but nothing
Yeah, but
as
nothing-
big.
nothing
Nothing
as
like
big,
this.
that's
And-
right.
And Mark Hamill.
And Mark Hamill, that's
Alec
right.
Guinness.
Yeah, Alec
you know.
Guinness, that's right.
So it was something.
Yeah.
So,
And Mark and I have to say, which was nice, Mark and I became good friends through those movies. Particularly the first film, he was a young actor, American actor, kind of on his own a bit in London, so he would hang out at my house quite a lot. And we're talking about Ian McDermott. The first time he ever saw Ian McDermott without his makeup on was at my house. Oh my God, that's what you look like. Oh my God. But there's a great photograph I've got somewhere of the 3 of us in the house going like that. It's just brilliant. And he was thrilled. Mark was very, very, very funny. Very amazing.
so I heard a story that you weren't sure whether your character was alive or dead at the end of Star Wars, at the first Star Wars.
Right.
So when you got the call to come back.
Yeah. I thought, well, he's obviously alive, that's it. Oh, he's alive. Okay, great. Yeah.
So, what was it like then returning to the set, you know, in 80 and 83?
Yeah. It
Because they
was.
were completely different, because different sets, you had to go to Iceland and...
That's right. Of course, we went to Norway.
Norway.
That's right. And that was directed by Irving Kershner.
Yes.
And a very charming man. And I'll never forget arriving. We were shooting in we were supposed to be shooting in ice fields up in the mountains in Norway. I remember arriving in Bergen in Norway in a plane, and we all got on this train. And the train started to go up like that. It never just kept going up and up and up. And then I noticed it was snowing. Snow was coming down like that. And then about 20 minutes later, I noticed there were no trees. We were above the tree line. And then I noticed the snow wasn't doing that. It was doing that. So it was good. So when we got there, we were in a whiteout for 3 days. We couldn't move. We're in this massive ski lodge. And luckily, there was a discotheque in the basement. Yes. So we danced our asses off for 3 nights, and, which was very amusing and funny. And then finally, we were able to get out and start to shoot. And I always remember Irving. He was a tall, slim man, and he was wearing this hat with big lugs down here like that. And he was just walking out the front door, and he turned around and went, "Here go the crazies!" And we never did get to those ice fields. Good that we ever got there. The reason that we went there, we didn't quite manage it because of the weather, you know. But again, it was, we had, you know, with Harrison and Mark and the other guys, we had a great camaraderie by that point, of course. You know, it was good fun. It's great fun.
That's great. Okay, we are going to take some questions. I will ask, so that everybody can get a question in, to make sure it's a question, not a statement. Make sure they're concise and focused. So questions you can line up right here. While people are lining up though, I'd like you to talk about your dance with the Ewoks.
My dance with the Ewoks. This is typical of how the movie's developed. So I had this, obviously, the scene where I danced with the Ewoks, right? So I'm getting ready, I have my helmet off. Wow, there's a thrill. And I'm getting ready to do the dance, and Harrison Ford came over to me. And he leaned in and touched my arm and went, "This is your big moment, Dennis." And that Harrison, I love Harrison's sense of humor. He's very ironic sense of humor. That was very typical of what was going on at that point, you know.
Yes, sir.
All right, outside of Star Wars, what is your favorite role or movie that you would recommend we've got to check out?
Okay, well, as I said, we talked about Local Hero earlier, and I would say that stands out as an experience for me in my career. Something very, very special about it. It was a great role. The movie itself came out so beautifully. Apart from that, I had a lot of success in the TV series of Bleak House, Charles Dickens. We did a very unusual 16 half-hour episodes, quite short for a classic series. And that had an extraordinary cast. Gillian Anderson was in that. I'm sure you know Gillian, who's wonderful. And again, it was very successful for me personally, and a great experience, quite something, yeah.
You won a BAFTA award because of it.
Well, I got nominated. Let's not get carried away.
We're gonna say you won.
I won a BAFTA award, okay? Right now.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, thank you.
So you talked about how you had to do different style of action for film.
Yes.
But your background is really on the stage.
Yes.
So aside from dancing with Ewoks, how did your stage training help you to become a good filmmaker?
Oh, well, I mean, okay, it's a lot to do with, okay, what I described earlier, but the difference between stage and film is a technical one, okay? But your development of your own performance is exactly the same. Who am I? Who is this guy? Where is he from? How does he talk? How does he move? How does he walk? All of those questions you ask yourself, and building a character for yourself. And again, one of the big differences between the stage and movies is on stage, in the theatre, you have 4 weeks rehearsal, 5, maybe even 6 weeks rehearsal, where you're still working all that out. On film, you have maybe a 15-minute rehearsal. That's all, that's it. And then you step off, and they light the scene, the lighting camera comes in, and you come in and you work with them and line up the shots, they put the marks down and that kind of thing. And it's almost, I quite often equate it to jazz, because it's very immediate, and you're flying by the seat of your pants, and you can change your performance from take to take as well. So everything's very fluid on camera, very. But again, going back to that theatrical experience, building your character, knowing who they are, knowing who they sound like, that kind of thing, is pretty much the same set of personal rules. It's very personal, you know. That answers it. Thank you.
Do you ever think Ewan, if he sees like a sock on the floor, he just walks up to it and stops?
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. But he doesn't look at it.
He doesn't look at it. Where did you pick that up? That's a mark. I can't believe they're not marked questions, but.
That's all right. Oh, here we go.
I was going to say, I got plenty. They're like, okay, no, we want to talk Star Wars.
Yeah, apologies. I do have a Star Wars question for you. But I just wanted to hear a little bit about what it was like, albeit brief, coming back to the role for The Rise of Skywalker. I believe I read at one point you were a little disappointed you had to return to the orange flight suit.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you very well.
Oh, I apologize. I just wanted to hear a little bit about what it was like to return to the role in The Rise of Skywalker,
Yes.
the most recent movie. I believe I read you were a little disappointed to see your costume was still the orange flight suit.
It was great to. It was just great to get back in. You know, at that time, the reason it's such a brief appearance is that they wanted me for 5 days, and at that point I was in a play on stage as an actor. I'm going straight in to direct a play on stage in another theatre. So I said, well, look, here are my dates. And they said, well, this isn't going to work. And I went, come on, we can do this. And,
Somewhat related to the last question that she asked, but framed a bit differently.
yeah.
Is there a dream role that you would just love to play?
Oh, a dream role. Oh, baby. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You've got me now. A dream role. I have to say, no, not really. I tend to just take things as they come as an actor, and I've said no quite a lot in my career. I've always felt it was the only way that I could control. Okay, I've done that. I don't want to do that again. I want to go in this direction, so I'll just be brave and not do that. So I don't feel I just react to what's coming at me. Let me put it that way. I wouldn't say, oh, I've always wanted to play Hamlet or something like that. I haven't necessarily, funnily enough. I suppose if it had come up, I would have gone, yeah, all right then, you know. Hamlet. But yeah, so the answer to that, in a way, is no. I like to keep my options open and just go with the flow. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great answer.
Good, oh, good. Hello.
Hi. So you have done so many different things, like we've been talking about stage, movies, television. I want to know what it was like seeing yourself on film in plasticity with art and animation doing I Am Your Mother. That was from the Star Wars Visions.
And Star Wars Vision.
Oh, I see. The animated stuff. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, it was quite weird. It was quite something. Excuse me. And but ultimately I really enjoyed it. It was great. Amazing that they did all that. You know, it's extraordinary how they developed the whole thing. Yeah. So I did enjoy that, and it was quite surreal. Quite surreal.
How about, I think you should do a Star Wars musical.
There's a great idea. Why is it, you know, funnily enough, I was thinking, I don't know, quite recently, why is it without a Star Wars musical? What a brilliant idea to do a Star Wars musical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could like star and direct and.
Okay, I'm going to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Come and see it next week. Dance, a bit of a moonwalk. Incredible.
That's no moon.
That's no moonwalk, that's what you call it. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, right.
I was always curious from actors or actresses play a role that is like a serial character, right? So it's not a one and done. The movie's done and characters live on, right? In novels, books, in these types of roles, Marvel movies, Star Wars movies. As the actor, do you get curious as to what your character was up to 10 years later, 20 years later, or, you know, is it done? My role in the story is done, and it didn't, I wasn't curious what creators, authors, people were doing with the character you played.
I guess, I mean, I didn't, I mean, I suppose I'd say, you know, I did the movies, and I enjoyed them enormously, and then how they then developed, if I understand your question, how they then developed that character in different directions. was kind of up to them. It didn't really, I suppose, impinge on me that much. It was interesting, you know, but again, you know, because I'm always so busy, I was kind of over there and I went, oh, they've done that, oh, interesting, we'll see. So back to rehearsals for something else. It was kind of extraordinary. I mean, it's extraordinary enough we're sitting here in this room, and I did the first one in 1976. My God, how did that happen? Yeah.